I have a secret portal that allows me to see and understand what childhood trauma does to people and the different patterns it follows and which kinds of people end up recovering from childhood PTSD and which ones stay stuck. The portal is my YouTube channel. Every single morning, I read the comments that people have posted. Do you read the comments? You'll see basically two kinds of comments, and one of them is the kind that comes from people who are very stuck in their early trauma, and the second kind comes from people who are actively recovering. Now, the first kind is so common, and it's how a lot of people first come to my channel. And it's true that a lot of us were conditioned to talk about what happened to us, what did they do, the people who hurt us, what was the family dynamic, how did we feel when that happened? And absolutely, it does need to be talked about at some point as part of your healing. But if you're like me, talking about other people in the past only went so far toward making me feel better. It helps me understand why we might have complex PTSD. It explains why we struggle, but then what do you do? The real progress begins when you can shift the focus off the past, off of other people, and onto your own symptoms. What's going on in here? The thinking, the behaviors, the emotions that are driving you now, because that's where healing is actually possible, in you, in present time. And even though I talk about this all the time, limit how much you talk about the past. Keep your focus on yourself, not so much on other people, and focus on what you can do in this moment to bring your trauma symptoms down. But still, I get a lot of comments and emails from people who are in that past-focused, other people-focused approach. And if that's gone on a long time, they're quite often stuck in a discouraged belief system. They're in a lot of pain and they're not seeing any hope. And in case you're in that group and you just haven't come to one of my courses yet, or my coaching, or one of my Zoom calls, I want to tell you how to get out of that stuck group and into the other group, the group that's not stuck. These people are healing very much by being in action. They're changing their lives. And I think most people want that, but they don't know how. So I'm going to tell you how I did it, how I recovered from my childhood PTSD symptoms, and how I teach other people to do it too. And I've learned from both my own experience and from the various mentors who have helped me along the way, and from working with thousands of people who went through neglect and abuse when they were kids, who come here for support. And I've had the honor and the joy of witnessing many, many people have amazing breakthroughs that changed everything for them, often quite quickly. I've witnessed other people stay miserable, and they've stayed stuck and disconnected from people. They're often dysregulated and kind of looping in their self-defeating behaviors, even though they don't want to be. And I learned through all these years doing this work by watching the people who recover, what they do, and the people who don't make much progress and what they do. So if you're miserable and you're not progressing the way you want to, I want you to hear this so that you can see what I'm seeing, the behaviors, the habits, and the mindset that you need to heal from these problems. It's so important that the healing happens for you. So much happiness and functionalness is waiting for you, and it feels really good. Okay, so I noticed two basic self-concepts out there, and the first is what I notice in the people who are working hard to figure out their trauma-driven thoughts and behaviors, and they're very focused on finding solutions that help them get better or that seem promising. They are triers. They try things. Now, not everything they've tried may have been helpful. That's true for most of us. But they're active in this project and noticing where they get lifted up and where they fall short. And when they comment, they'll tell you these little nuggets of wisdom. They'll say, you know, I tried this one approach and I used a technique and I read this book, but this other thing I tried was terrible. The book was okay. The technique was amazing. You know, they'll tell you what worked for them. And there are clear signs that someone is healing. You know, you can tell from the outside too. And the people in this active group are paying attention to that. What changes that they are able to make as a result of something they try? Are they able to get along better with people? Does it help them feel more at ease in groups or when they're alone? Are they noticing when their talents and their gifts start emerging, and what aspects of their healing are supporting that, are allowing that to blossom. That's what they're looking for. And they will self-report that they're feeling hopeful. And you'll see them often putting energy into encouraging other people too. That's a very advanced sign of healing, a very good thing. So in this group of people who are trying, the triers, they're subscribing to my channel because, and this is what they say in the comments, it's practical, it's solution-oriented, and it's based not just on theory, but real experience that they can relate to. They feel seen, they feel not alone anymore. And I love that because I feel that way too. I feel not alone because they're here and because you're all here. And for people who are having a breakthrough in their healing like this, they're excited to try the new tools and the new ideas and see if there's something in there that they can use. They want inspiration. They want to hear how other people heal. They want action steps. They're ready to go. And they don't get too hung up when something doesn't help. They keep trying. Now, you can tell that I am very fond. I love this group. And I also love the second group. And the second group can learn a lot by the patterns of the first group. So if you feel alienated by the story of what healing people look like, just listen and learn. Try not to let shame block you from hearing it. All right, so this second group, the people who are, feeling stuck, these are the people for whom the breakthrough just hasn't happened yet. I want that for them. They're good people. They've worked really hard on their healing, and a lot of them are knowledgeable about the treatments out there, and they've tried a lot of them, but the healing hasn't come yet. And so this group is really discouraged. And they come to feel helpless and hopeless. And you can see it in the comments they write. Deep down inside, they've stopped believing that healing is possible for them, which is toxic. That's a bad belief. You don't want to let that happen to you. And you can feel the bitterness and the cynicism that they're expressing. It's stuff like, people suck, I'm too old, or they tell me, you have no idea what it's actually like to have trauma. Well, they might be surprised, right? So people who are going through this will have a lot to say about things outside of themselves. Family members, exes, society, the people who said they would help them but couldn't or wouldn't and who let them down, or anybody who made them feel unimportant and unseen and unloved. And that's all real, and I know it hurt them. But people in this state of discouragement can tell you very clearly what's wrong with all of it, what ought to change, and what their pain is like. They're very, very in touch with pain. And most of us have been there. That's part of having trauma at one time or another. But this second group, this discouraged and stuck group, what's also clear is that they have a very vague or non-existent concept of themselves, of what they would be like without the emotional pain. The pain becomes everything. It defines them as if it's who they are. And so they can't see themselves in a different future state where things have changed for the better. They can't even imagine what they might be like, what day-to-day life would feel like if they weren't trapped inside their own symptoms. So that's what I mean by stuck. Now, getting stuck in pain and isolation is a very traumatized thing to do. It happens to everybody sometimes. But if you want to break out of that, you have to do what I call breaking the wheel. Have you heard me talk about this wheel before? And what I mean by the wheel is it's this like churning negative thinking and emotion states that go round and round with us, which, by the way, is part of the neurological injury of trauma. We have a hard time processing negative thoughts and feelings, so they do get stuck. But I'm using the metaphor, it's like a wheel, the blame, the obsession with people who hurt you, the struggles, the failures, the ways that you were never accepted or seen, and the stories that you told yourself over and over about why you are the way you are. And it's not that these stories aren't true necessarily, but if we can't stop the spinning, the wheel just gets stronger and faster. And it's like a centrifuge, something spinning that throws off and scatters everything that comes near it. And it throws off people who love us, and it throws off wonderful opportunities, and it throws off financial security, and it throws off joy. Joy is gone. The wheel is very seductive at the same time. It's like, come here, come lose everything. And that's why I use this metaphor. You can't just slow the wheel down. You don't ask it a lot of questions or analyze the trajectory of everything that's flying around the room. You just have to take a big metaphorical stick and jam it in there and break that wheel. And don't worry, the wheel is made of air, and when you break it, the whole thing evaporates, and it's not going to hit you in the face with fragments or anything. It's safe to picture this happening. Sometimes I feel like I have to say that so people can relax as they're following me along on this vision. So the wheel evaporates. It's gone. It's like waking up from a bad dream. You thought the wheel got the better of you, but it didn't. And you thought it protected you, but it actually just kept you stuck in pain and made you see nothing but helplessness. But you know what? You're not helpless. There's a whole wide world of experiences out there. And if you can get a little breathing room just to get started from that cycle of fear and anger and analysis and diagnosis and blame and then fear again, thinking and talking about this stuff, it doesn't make it go away, but it can go away. And remember, all you need sometimes is just a little bit of breathing room. It goes away when just for a moment you can release the story. You can open yourself up to a fresh and new experience of yourself and your capabilities in present time. The focus needs to come off of times past and off of other people and onto the only thing that you can heal, which is yourself, and the knowledge that right here, right now, through practical steps, you can open the door to that healing process by changing your mental state. You need one ray of hope. It doesn't have to be like the whole sky is lit up. You need one ray of hope. And to have hope, you need to be able to see, to imagine something better. You need to make room for just a little bit of belief that healing is possible. Whether or not other people change, whether or not your circumstances change, whether or not the things you tried before worked, this is the crucial sign that someone is on the good path. They recognize their own agency. Do you know the word agency? They begin to see what they can do, the choices that they can make, the part that they can control. Even when CPTSD puts nothing but hard choices in front of you, you always have some choice. And despite the symptoms you have today, you can move one foot in front of the other toward the healed life that you deserve. Are you hearing me? You can learn a new way to respond to the inevitable stressors and the hardships of life, because they'll never stop. I'll tell you right now, it never stops. Life's going to keep throwing stuff at you, but you can change. It starts here. It starts in the way that you regard the possibility of your own healing. Can you see this? Can you believe it's possible that things could be better and easier in the future than they are right now? And are you willing to make some changes, starting with the way you talk to yourself about your trauma? Because if you're telling yourself that you're hopelessly screwed up, you'll never change, then whether you mean to or not, you're disconnecting with your life and all the people in it. And people generally have a lot of compassion, but when they sense that that negative wheel is spinning, it's like they can feel it. We can all feel it in other people, and it makes us want to pull away. So it ends up isolating you. When you're in that bad place, the very thing that you're longing for is for people to come toward you isn't happening for you. When that wheel is spinning and you're like, why can I not get some support? Why doesn't anyone believe me? They see that I need some help, and that is a really hard place to be. I know, I've been there. And the worst thing about it is that the spinning wheel of negative ideas about yourself blinds you to who you really are, to all the good things that you're capable of bringing to this world. Your life is real. Your life is important. But when you're surrendered to cynicism, it's pretty hard to feel it. So how do you even begin? And this is one of the reasons why childhood PTSD is hard, is because it can make even little steps just seem overwhelming. But if today you can just do one thing, I'll keep it really simple for you. Just get it into your mind what it will feel like when your PTSD reactions to life are reduced. You want to give it a try? Let's take a minute and I'll walk you through it. Imagine you're in a stressful situation. You're making a mistake at work, or you're visiting your family, or you're getting your feelings hurt by a friend who let you down. Just pick something that's both hard for you, but also that happens sometimes in your life, that's realistic. Now remember what it's like when your CPTSD triggers start firing up and that wheel, it fires up, it starts to spin, and here it goes, and you start getting dysregulated, and you start reacting in the old ways you hate, you feel tight, your heart races, you want to lash out, maybe you start getting numb, and you start getting scared that that same part of you that always comes out when you're triggered is going to come once again and ruin everything. And it's like, oh no, here we go. I'm going to ruin what little good there is in my life. Have you ever felt like this, like you couldn't stop it? Okay, now you're imagining that. Let it go. Now imagine you're in that situation where the hard thing happens, the thing that used to trigger you, but this time your trauma-driven reaction is 50% less than before. So you feel a little rise when you're triggered. The wheel sort of, it's creaking, it's trying to go, but it doesn't go over the top. You don't lose control. You still have choices about the words you say, your facial expressions, the harsh thoughts that are going through your head. You can see them, but you can decide not to say anything in the moment. Would a 50% reduction in symptoms change how things turn out for you? Probably, right? Now, imagine the same situation, but this time let's take the symptoms down a little more to say 20% of what you're used to. What would that be like? The bad thing happens. You feel it, it hurts, there's a little activation there, but it doesn't carry you away, not even at all. Just a little rise inside, a reaction, but it stays fairly contained. Would you be able to express yourself better if that were contained, to be able to talk about what was bothering you in a productive way? Would you be able to stay present and keep your choices? Could the relationships that in the past would have blown up in your face instead survive without damage, even though something hurt your feelings and you expressed it? And think about this. Would it make a difference in your life if you could do that long term whenever stressful situations came up? Do you think it would allow you to gradually change some of your circumstances? Would it be easier then to make friends with people and to find people who fit you a little better than the ones you have in your life right now? And if that were all going well, could you imagine other things going well? Your relationship with your partner, your career, your physical health, your ability to share your gifts with the world? Well, everyone in the second group, those of you who are discouraged, if you're imagining this, if you followed along with me, you just joined the first group. That's how you do it. The ones who can imagine a better future are more likely than anybody else to actually make it there. It starts by allowing yourself to believe that you're capable of changing your life. If you're only ready for one small step, try this. Stop telling yourself the terrible story of your life. You break the wheel when you believe and connect with a better vision of yourself, and you start taking action to make it happen. You can change. And if you need some reminding that you really can heal, I've got this free PDF for you that lists the signs that you'll notice in yourself when your trauma is healing. And your trauma healing actually has probably already begun, whether you feel like that or not. So check out how far you've come on the PDF that you can download for free right there. And I will see you very soon.